Welcome to the 5 Choices Certification Overview. My name is Corey Kogan, and I'm the Global Productivity Practice Leader, as well as one of the authors of the 5 Choices to Extraordinary Productivity. My goal is to equip individuals, teams, and organizations with the right methods and tools to feel accomplished at the end of virtually every day. I look forward to sharing with you the power of our content and solutions of the 5 Choices suite of learning offerings. So let's get started. Everyone is crazy busy in today's world, hoping that by the end of the day they get something important done. The look of frustration and overwhelm can be a great indicator of the level of engagement by which we bring ourselves to work when we just feel buried alive. Our opening Buried Alive video is a great metaphor for the lives many of us are living today. See if you can relate.
Today's workplace is a battlefield. As soon as you enter, you are fighting to survive an onslaught of urgent tasks, emails, meeting requests, and deadlines. It's like an avalanche of gravel that threatens to bury you alive. And just when you think you've dug yourself out, it starts all over again. And it's not just at work. The gravel threatens our personal lives as well, distracting us from key relationships and things that matter most. So we try to sort the gravel, label it, and organize it. We discuss it in meetings, often missing issues that are far more important. What extraordinary things could you achieve if only you could break out? Ready for a change?
So what's the gravel in your life? Email? Bosses? Meetings? Why are we so buried like never before? Well, Franklin Covey, we have been studying and researching human productivity for over 30 years, and we know the world has changed, and it starts with an amazing paradox. In today's world, it is both easier and harder than ever to achieve extraordinary productivity. Why is it easier? Technology, instant communication, and an unstoppable flow of information from everywhere around the world in the global economy. Why is it harder? For exactly the same reasons. And we know there are 3 major problems that feed right into the harder part. Here's the first one. We have more decisions to make every day than ever before, coming at us from every direction all day long. And we're so busy trying to handle all of them, we may not be considering the value of the decisions we're making, about where to spend our finest attention and energy. And many times, the most important opportunities go right by us. Have you ever thought at the end of the day that you were pretty busy, but not sure what you got done? With the flood of decisions coming in, we barely have enough time to think. We just react. The second problem we are grappling with is our attention is under unprecedented attack. Did you know that the average office worker gets only about 3 minutes at a time before being interrupted? Every tweet, ding, beep is designed to pull our attention away from the important things we should be focused on. And last, with all the pressure to make good decisions at the same time your attention is under attack, it's exhausting. We're coming to work today burned out, fatigued, disengaged, not able to give our best even if we want to. Let me show you what I mean. Take a look at this survey. We have been gathering data since 2005, asking people to let us know where they think they spend most of their attention and energy. They self-report that only 60% is spent on important priorities and 40% on unimportant and irrelevant things. 40%, that's almost half. What if your car didn't work 40% of the time? But even more important is the opportunity cost of that time. Where else could you be spending it? What about those really important things you want to work on that would make you feel highly accomplished? Think about how much it costs you and your team or organization for people to be spending 40% of their time, attention, and energy on unimportant, low-value activities. And what would it mean if you were able to make even a 10% shift? So with all of our years of study and knowing that the problems have changed, here's what we know. It's no longer just about time management as the solution to personal and organizational productivity. In today's world, where so many people are being paid to use their minds, it's about mastering the in-depth skills to make high-value decisions, have very focused attention, and have sustainable high energy. And we can do it. Here's our premise. We all have the potential to do extraordinary things. Don't you agree? We all have it in us to contribute, to give more of ourselves, to feel accomplished. Do this little thinking exercise with me. Think about a time in your life when you did something extraordinary. How were you making decisions? What was your focus like? Did you have high energy? Of course you did. But how often do you feel that way? What if you were able to replicate that even one more time, or twice a week or more? What would that mean to you, your team, or even the whole organization? So what is one thing that you are not currently doing or not doing as well as you would like that if you put your finest focus and attention on it would provide enormous value or contribution to your life? So here's our promise. There are 5 choices that, when consistently made, ensure that you will achieve extraordinary productivity in your work and life. The first 2 choices focus on decision management. The third and fourth choices are about attention management. The last choice is about maintaining and regenerating energy so you can get the most important things done. Let's get into choice 1. Act on the important, don't react to the urgent. See these doors? That door on the left is going to fly right open on you. You don't have to do a thing and you will get buried. Yet the other door you have to intentionally step through to get to the blue sky, a great metaphor for being proactive versus reactive. You know, our physiology contributes to us being reactive and sometimes addicted to all the technology and incoming every day. Our brains are wired for reactivity, but actually can be rewired for proactivity. We've partnered with and interviewed a number of world-renowned doctors and brain scientists who helped us understand how to rewire our brains to more consistently act on the important. Let's take a look at what a few of them have to say.
For the past 25 years, I've been treating a neurological condition called attention deficit disorder. The key symptoms of ADD, distractibility, impulsivity, restlessness, disorganization, trouble planning, procrastination, have come to be key attributes of most people working and living in today's world. Well, interestingly enough, over the past decade or so, more and more people have been coming to me saying they thought they had ADD, but they didn't. They had what I call a severe case of modern life. The symptoms of overloaded circuits are very similar to the symptoms of attention deficit disorder. You feel frustrated, frantic, furious, fearful, forgetful, frenetic. You're in a state of frenzy. And as a result, you can't focus. You're distracted. You can't sustain mental energy on one task for much longer than a few seconds.
The environment, everyday activities are getting more and more complex, more and more full of information and demanding. We often talk about the new information society and the overflow of information. And this has created a very demanding environment for us. And you could say that our brain is under attack.
We have an executive brain, and our executive brain is where we do all of that productivity, planning, paying attention, self-control, the parts of our brain that really make decisions, make choices, and allow us to follow through on plans. And then we have an older part of our brain, the emotional brain, which is where we react to things. The problem comes in if we get stuck in our emotional brain and just keep reacting to things, because productivity is not busyness.
One question that people often ask me is it possible to become addicted to making trivial choices in our lives? And I do think it is possible to become addicted to it, and in fact I think it's becoming more and more probable that we become addicted to it, mainly because our lives have become so reactive that it's hard for us to not become addicted to making trivial choices. From the moment you wake up in the morning, you've got your phones going, you've got emails coming in, you've got text messages coming in. You don't have enough time to truly concentrate because you're concentrating on 2, 3, maybe 4 things simultaneously, which means that you are in a perpetual state of reaction orientation as opposed to proactively orienting yourself.
Every time we make a choice, we rewire our brains. I think somebody once said that bad habits are easy to form and hard to break, whereas good habits are hard to form and easy to break. So if you don't take an active part in changing the brain correctly, then it'll be sort of a slave to stimuli that are imposed upon it.
The greater presence of choice in our modern day lives means that we now have more opportunities to make worse choices for ourselves, particularly if you take the position of reacting to all the choices present in your life, but you also have greater opportunities to make better choices for yourself. And the only way we're going to get to that is by being more choosy about our choosing. You need to be strategic about choosing.
So you can see, choice 1 is foundational. The more we retrain our brain by making conscious and intentional decisions, the faster we rewire and have great new habits. Let's take a look at the language and methodology that helps us get there. The following video describes the return on investment of your attention, energy, and time using the time matrix.
So how do we consistently act on the things that create extraordinary results at work and in life? It starts with understanding the return on your time and energy, represented by the time matrix. The matrix has 2 axes. The vertical one is importance, the horizontal one is urgency. Together, they form 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1 is for things that are both important and urgent. They are things we care about and that must be done now. This is where we find crises, emergency meetings, last-minute deadlines, pressing problems, and unforeseen events. We call this the quadrant of necessity. Time spent here is necessary, but you usually get a return that's equal to or less than the time and energy you spend. If you live here for long, you will burn out. Quadrant 3 is for things that are urgent but that are not important. These are things that come at us. They're things that we feel like we need to act on because they clamor for our attention. But when we take a closer look, they turn out to be unimportant, low-value activities. This is where we find a lot of needless interruptions, unnecessary reports, and irrelevant meetings. It contains other people's minor issues and is often filled with unimportant email, tasks, phone calls, and so forth. We call this the quadrant of distraction, and it always generates a return that is less than the time and energy you spend. If you spend a lot of time here, you're likely to feel very busy, but ultimately ineffective and unfulfilled. Quadrant 4 is for things that are neither important nor urgent. We really shouldn't be here at all. But we often get so worn out spending time in quadrants 1 and 3 that we go here as a way to escape. This is a place where we shut off our brains and don't do anything of value. Here we find trivial work, along with excessive television, gaming, internet surfing, gossip, and other time wasters. We call this the quadrant of waste. Time spent here is unnecessary and generates zero return. If you spend a lot of time here, you're likely to feel lethargic, ineffective, and unfulfilled. Quadrant 2 is for things that are important, but not urgent. These are things that really matter to your results, but that won't happen unless you act on them. It's the quadrant of extraordinary productivity, because it's where you find the things that really make a difference. Like proactive work, achieving high-impact goals, creative thinking, planning, prevention, relationship building, learning and renewal. These things don't come at you. You have to decide to invest your time in quadrant 2. Time spent here always generates a return far greater, often exponentially greater, than the time and energy you put into it. To achieve extraordinary productivity, you need to consistently prevent the crises that consume your time and energy in quadrant 1, minimize the time you spend on the distractions of quadrant 3, eliminate entirely the time you spend in quadrant 4, and expand the amount of time you invest in quadrant 2. Working and living in quadrant 2 means that you're focused on the things that matter, that change the game, that have a significant impact on your results. It's a mindset that helps you discern which choices to act on now, choices that will generate significant value. The choice to act on the important, rather than react to the urgent, is essential for extraordinary productivity.
Practicing these methods will allow people to hold themselves accountable for how they are spending their attention, energy, and time by consciously making decisions about all of the incoming. Do I answer that ding? Do I need to start that project now? Am I waiting until the last minute? We also need to be able to build a Q2 culture, sharing this language and methodology, the time matrix, with one other person, your team, and even your boss, so everyone becomes aligned with what is important and what is not. Imagine the difference when you and the people with whom you work can talk openly with a common language that lets you determine what is really important and that helps you eliminate things that really don't make a difference at all. As Dr. Walter Schneider said, the brain does certain things automatically, but there's also an executive control system. In our culture, we can be on automatic pilot, reacting to the world around us without giving it much thought. If we don't keep the executive brain engaged, we could be doing the wrong things. So mastering this language and methodology means we are keeping the executive brain engaged and that we're actually rewiring our brain to pause, clarify, and consciously decide what things are really worth our attention and energy, so we can accomplish extraordinary results. This brings us to choice 2. Go for the extraordinary, don't settle for ordinary. People who make this choice clearly define what extraordinary looks like in their key roles, giving themselves the roadmap and inspiration to feel highly accomplished and balanced in work and life. We focus on roles because research tells us that people define themselves by their roles. It's who we are first and foremost. Reflect on this thinking as you watch our Extraordinary Roles video. Think about balance when viewing the opening images and learn what the scientific research tells us about how we can achieve an extraordinary life through our roles.
Our lives are multifaceted. For example, you're not just a professional, or just a musician, or just a spouse. The fact is we have many roles. One person might be a sister, a writer, and a friend. Another might be an engineer who's also a marathon runner.
Roles are so fundamental to human identity that when we ask people to tell us the answer to the question, who are you? They always answer in terms of roles. I am a spouse, I am a manager at work, I'm an employee, I am a friend. Even when people give a list of personality traits in response to that question, such as I am shy or I am a fun-loving person, those traits are always acted out in the context of roles.
Roles are where life happens. It's where we build relationships, where all the activities that make us human go on. But the trick is to keep them all in balance. Sometimes our lives feel out of balance because one role is demanding the most from us. Sometimes we feel our lives are fragmented because of competing roles. Our goal is a life where our most important roles are working together in a way that's meaningful and satisfying. Because our life is made up of roles, the best way to transform our lives for the better is to transform our roles. Trying to create an extraordinary life can feel nearly impossible, just because it's so broad and intangible. But focusing on what extraordinary looks like in each of your roles makes the task much easier and much more achievable. Since we naturally think in roles, we can clarify them and define what to do to get the outcomes we want. For instance, rather than just being a friend, ask yourself, what would an extraordinary friendship look like? How would it feel? What would I be doing? Or look at your job. What are some extraordinary outcomes that would make a big difference to your organization and that would draw from your unique talents and abilities? What would it do for your career, for your sense of satisfaction and personal development?
So the more specific we get, the more our brains respond. We often are reticent to set very difficult, very meaningful goals for ourselves because of a sense that maybe it will be too difficult for us to achieve them. But there have been actually well over 1,000 studies from all over the world in a wide range of areas showing that the more specific we are about exactly what we want to achieve and the more difficult and meaningful we make the goal, something that really pushes you to again, make sure that it's possible, but really pushes you to maximize your potential. When people set difficult and specific goals for themselves, they are vastly more successful and vastly more satisfied and happy with their lives than they are when they just say, well, I'm going to do my best.
Some of the most important work you'll ever do in Quadrant 2 is to choose those few roles that really matter to you and clearly define how you fulfill them. It's the key to a balanced and extraordinary life.
This part of the 5 choices is very, very reflective for most everyone. Many people get very contemplative and quiet as they start to reflect with the front of their brain, being thoughtful about their roles. When else do we have this chance? Rarely. When can any of us stop long enough to work from the proactive part of our brains to consider who we are, how we're performing in our roles, and what extraordinary could look like? Determine your most important roles in life right now. Not 10 years ago, not 10 years from now, in real time, right now. You have many roles, but come to the top 5 or 6 most important roles right now. When you put your roles into the life wheel and you see your whole life in front of you and you rate yourself, what do you discover? Are you underperforming in that role? Are you average or living this role in a way that is extraordinary? What could extraordinary look like in your roles? Let me give you an example. Jennifer is a woman whose life we follow in the work sessions. She's a marketing director for a global company, has 3 children with lots of activities, and she looked at her marketing director role and thought to herself, what do I really do? I help the organization drive business. I'm a business catalyst. And then she proceeded to write a Q2 role statement that looks like this. with structure. This statement is what inspires her to get the most important things around this done, but it does not stop there. Once people construct a Q2 role statement, they can then think about the specific goals that will help them achieve it. Dr. Heidi Grant Halverson tells us that over 1,000 scientific studies prove that the more specific you get, the greater the probability of accomplishment. Here's an example of Jen's goal connected to her role. Now you can see how choices 1 and 2 clearly help define what important looks like. The brain science is insightful here. With clarity around your roles and goals, you have put a bouncer in your brain. You know, the guy at the nightclub that won't let folks in? Your brain does the same. The more clear the goals are that you have in your head, the more your brain will inhibit the other distractions from getting in the way. Now we must ensure that we execute on what's important, not just dream about it. That takes us to choice 3, schedule the big rocks, don't sort gravel. Let's take a look at our Big Rocks video that highlights the metaphor of big rocks and gravel.
Hello, my name is Aidan O'Neill with Franklin Covey. We're here today in sunny London, home of the schedule, clocks with first names, Greenwich Mean Time. And this thing, we thought if anybody could prioritise their time, it would definitely be the Londoners. Let's go find out. Excuse me. David, good to see you. All of that. You're a dancer?
I'm a butcher by trade. I have a number of people working for me.
Can you show us any dance moves? Lovely, lovely, lovely.
I got a couple of sons, a couple of ex-wives.
Do you feel like there's enough hours in the day to...
No, generally not. Generally not, actually.
Feel your pain?
I get up about 6 o'clock in the morning.
Rush about getting ready to get out the door in time, get in the car, hope there's not just too much traffic about.
There's a lot to be done in all the few hours in the day.
Absolutely.
Right, which moves us swiftly on to our task. This is your life right here. This is you. Can you see the resemblance? Over here, this represents the unimportant things in your life, the things that you have to do. They're quite urgent and you have to do them. When you get to work, what do?
Emails.
There's one email.
Laundry.
The laundry has to be done. The ironing. Can you hear that? Is that the phone ringing? It's your ex-wife's mother-in-law. Oh, lovely.
Oh, put loads in there.
Loads in there.
I think that's probably about right for me.
Is there enough rubbish in my life?
No, you gotta keep going. So how do you feel about half your life being taken up by these unimportant tasks?
I'm a bit frustrated at times.
But over here, these are all the good things in your life. The really important, great opportunities and family, goals and things like that. Do you want these things in your life?
Most definitely.
So your task is, you've got to get these rocks into this bowl, which is your life. But you're not allowed to go over this level. And if you can do that challenge, I'm going to give you a nice crisp £50 note. Oh! What would you like to choose to put in first?
To put in first, family.
Family.
You've got a lot of that, haven't you? Everybody's going for family. Friends, looking at key relationships. Oh, it's not that you're burying your 2 ex-wives down there.
No. Business opportunity.
That's a big rock.
That's a very big rock, actually.
He's going straight for the holiday and vacation. Customer relationships are so important to you.
They are, indeed. Exercise.
Let me see them stomach muscles. Rock hard. Like a stone, like that. What about that big pink one? What does that say?
Customer relationship. Exciting new projects. That always keeps me motivated and happy.
What about the brown one at the end there?
Not quite. Need to get rid of some of the stuff I don't need to do.
You're getting really into this, aren't you, Bob?
The stuff I put in first, like the spiritual stuff and the family and the love, is the kind of it's the important stuff, really.
Probably get rid of exercise.
Who needs pert bums? Do you do community service in Clapham?
No.
Just gonna put that one on. Love is left out.
Oh, that never works for me.
It doesn't work for you.
If it happens, it happens.
You can reorganise it. You gotta make room. You need love in your life. You're going a little over the line there, my man.
You find that you can't squeeze everything in.
There's too much of disgruntled life getting in the way.
It will be good to get rid of some of this so that we can put some of this in.
And then pour the green life on top of it.
let it fill in all the little nooks and crannies so my priorities are what I want in life.
Do you want to try that?
Yeah?
Okay.
Why didn't you tell me you had this?
I didn't know it was down there. You're taking a new angle on this, aren't you?
I am.
I'm feeling good. Are you feeling good?
Yeah.
Exciting new project.
Get it in there. I'm happy. It's good.
You still need the emails and the phone calls. You still need them.
You really
because
need them?
Yes, because the emails, unless they're spam, you don't need spam.
There we go. Nah, you want some more than that.
They're fitting around the other things.
Are you going to leave out some of the mundane things?
Definitely.
You going to leave some out there?
Yeah.
Is that a stand you're taking and you're going to stand by that?
I am, yes. I'm happy and confident with that.
But you're a rich man now. You've got yourself £50. Yes! What are you going to do with your 50 quid?
Get a haircut.
Is there a moral to our story?
I've learned that I need to sit back and re-examine my life and put my priorities in the right order.
You can fit things into a day or a bowl if you really need to.
You can fit things into a day or a bowl if you really need to. There you have it, people. Do the important things first, and everything else just falls into place. Do you know, I've just thought of something important that I could do right now. Well, maybe it's just fun. Cheers!
Choice 3 is a set of disciplines that will transform your life. One of the first things you need to do is identify your master task list. Get everything out of your head and get it down in front of you. See how many of the items are connected to your roles and goals. Maybe now you can see some self-imposed Q3s to take off the list. The master task list is the one place where we have all the things listed that are key to our roles and goals. Now we can move on to our planning systems. We call this Q2 planning. 30 minutes for weekly planning, 10 minutes for daily planning. This is very different than regular planning. It's reflective. We use the best part of our minds and our master task list to ensure we are scheduling and prioritizing the right things. Our promise is that if you spend at least 30 minutes a week and at least 10 minutes a day in Q2 planning, it will transform the time you spend everywhere else. Let's start with Q2 weekly planning. Take the macro view of the week before it starts. Use your brain in a reflective way for 30 minutes to review your roles and goals and decide for next week what the most important vital things are that need to be done. And get those big rocks in the calendar. The more planning that can be done looking at the forest versus the trees, the more successful you will be. Let's take big rocks further into what we call time zoning. These are repeatable big rocks. Maybe you don't work out enough or spend enough time with your spouse or partner. By getting this rhythm into your calendar, you have a better chance of accomplishing it and creating a great habit. It just becomes natural. And what you start to see in your calendar is this consistent quality dashboard or map of those things that are the best decisions you can make as to what must get done. You're in control, and the gravel fills in around your key priorities. Last, daily planning. Take 10 minutes at the end of the day to use the reflective part of your brain to reconcile your day. Celebrate what was accomplished and move what was not accomplished to another day and time to ensure it gets done. Then capture the gold. Sometimes the day goes so fast we forget about all the notes, comments, tasks, quotes we might have heard and liked and scribbled down somewhere. It's gold. Highlight it if it's something you've learned, or put it in your master task list if it's something you need to do. Finally, enter in anything else that you feel you might want to get done tomorrow and put it in the calendar. Remember, leave lots of white space. You will get interrupted with real life, so schedule wisely to ensure getting the most important things done. Don't just keep trying to get everything done. are doing great if we are accomplishing choices 1 through 3. Yet, even the best planning can fall apart if you get blindsided by your technology. By making choice 4, you rule your technology. You don't let it rule you. People who make this choice align their workflow with their applications and gadgets, turning them into productivity engines that serve them rather than distract them. Think about your own technology addictions as you watch this video.
There's something very strange happening. We've created a new addiction. It's the addiction to technology. Now, it may not reach the level of a full-blown addiction, but it is certainly an habituation, which means you start reaching for your cell phone even when you don't need to. There's something irresistible about an unopened message. You know, it used to be the mail would come once or twice a day. Now it comes once or twice a second. And we humans, when we know there's a message that we haven't opened, we want to open it. You know, we want to see what's there, even if we know it's stupid or distracting. We want to open it. And so you find people literally, compulsively reaching for their email like it was a package of cigarettes. And there's no doubt but that the same addiction circuitry, the dopamine circuitry, is involved here. Well, when the brain is at its best, what I call C state, cool, calm, collected, careful, concentrated, curious, courteous, your frontal lobes are aglow. Your frontal lobes are planning, designing, innovating. Your frontal lobes, the front part of your brain, the newest part of your brain, speaking historically, is running the show. Executive function is humming. As people go faster and faster trying to do more and more, everything they do becomes superficial. They don't go in depth. They can't think deeply. They can't feel deeply. They can't reflect and plan and create. And what the brain is uniquely qualified to do is to create, to innovate, to come up with new ideas and set those in motion. When you're in this frantic, fast-paced, overloaded state, no way you can do that. I consulted with one woman executive in New York City, and she said, after we spoke, she said, I did something very simple, but it changed my life profoundly. I have a word called screen sucking. You sort of glomp onto a screen and you say, I'll just check my email, and you're there for an hour. Well, she said, after we spoke, I took my computer that had been front and center on my desk, and I put it on a table behind me. I didn't have to get up, but I had to swivel to check my email. She said, in the time it would take me to swivel, I could stop myself. I could say, there's no need to check your email now. She said it cut my screen sucking by 50%. And how many of us do that? Just reach compulsively for our email. Whenever we encounter a problem, whenever we're bored, whenever we feel a little bit frustrated, I'll just check my email. Well, by putting it behind her so she had to swivel, it gave her that millisecond of time to inhibit her desire to do it. What's more important, sending and receiving messages or coming up with new ideas? Obviously, it's coming up with new ideas. Obviously, the competitive edge today is not the person who can process the most messages, although we behave as if it were. There's no way you can innovate if you're overloaded. You may feel, living in this world, that you have very little control and that the world is out of control. Well, in some ways it is, but you do have more control than you may realize. Take back that control. To use your brain, your heart, to your advantage, so that every day you do what matters most to you. Don't go to bed any day saying, I didn't get to what mattered. Know what matters most, act on it, prioritize, and then create a set of boundaries and assistance so that every day you will do what matters most to you. If you do, you will not only achieve your goals, you'll feel fulfilled, and you will feel inspired, and you will inspire those around you. Modern life, in fact, can be a time of tremendous success as long as you don't let it overrun you.
Is that you or someone you know? Are you addicted? I have been. One thing I did to fix it? I don't check my smartphone in the morning until I've had time with my family and gotten ready for work. Then I check it. It was hard work because of the reflexive addiction of getting out of bed and seeing what's happening. But I got over it. I realized focusing on my smartphone first thing in the morning versus my family and the dog who's looking at me with wistful eyes was not the right choice. Being intentional about these kinds of things to stop the addiction, even little things, is a great step to letting go, becoming proactive, and ruling your technology to get the right things done. Once we've grappled with the addiction, our workflow process will really help, both as a mental paradigm shift and to integrate our technology to bring it all together. Let me show you what I mean. Here's the hard work we've done so far. Q2 roles and goals, weekly and daily planning. Looks ideal, right? Great on paper. And yet, what can mess it all up? All those emails, people, demands waiting outside the door. Unless we are skillful at discernment at that moment of choice, it all falls apart. We must be really practiced at pausing, clarifying, and deciding what is important or not. If you determine it is not important, get rid of it. If it is a quadrant 1 or 2, then you have to either file it or act on it. Think about it. There are really only 4 components of incoming: appointments, tasks, contacts, or documents. We call these the core 4. This becomes your system of incoming. Everything goes into one of these buckets. And look, if it has made it to this system, it means that it's important to my roles and goals, and I will execute by utilizing weekly and daily planning. This process clearly helps get the right things done. And now we will align our technology to really make this powerful. We will implement 3 master moves, turning Outlook or Lotus Notes into a productivity engine. We can automate the decision-making of about 30% of our email by winning without fighting. Right here, we will take what's left over that is important, the Q1s and 2s, and turn them into what they really are: an appointment, a task, a calendar item, or a note or document, creating a great workflow. And last, we'll link to locate our resources. Ever start a project and have to waste time looking for all the documents? Implementing these master moves is very exciting because it allows people to clear out their inboxes and feel like they are in control of what requires their attention. Also, if you use the task management system in Calendar, you can set up a very robust weekly and daily Q2 planning system. As you see here, I'm using Outlook as an example. I have my weekly calendar. On the right, I have my master task list with my big rocks in caps and my daily task list down below. It's my navigation dashboard, so I stay in control. So I ensure I'm always working to strategize to execute the most important things in my life. If you make choices 1 through 4, you'll be highly energized, but that can be hard to sustain. With choice 5, you fuel your fire so you don't burn out. People who sustain their mental and physical energy have the best opportunity to bring their finest attention and effort to their work and lives. Let's take a look at this video. See if anyone reminds you of someone you know, and learn a little of the science around energy.
quality of life is influenced dramatically by the amount of energy we have. Energy influences not only what we can accomplish, but how much we enjoy what we do. Yet so many of us are worn down and worn out by the urgencies of life that we end up suffering from a personal energy crisis. We have two basic sources of energy. The first is our sense of purpose. When we're doing things that are important and meaningful to us, we're filled with energy. We give our best and enjoy making the effort. On the other hand, when we're caught up in things we feel aren't important, or maybe even meaningless, our energy goes out the window. By making choices 1 through 4, you'll tap into this first source of energy. You'll draw tremendous strength from a life that's focused on things that really matter. The second source of energy is our physical and mental capacity. Even if we're excited about the purposes in our lives, we might lack the energy in our bodies and our brains to enjoy them, or even give them our best effort. Choice 5 is about building and sustaining that source of energy so we can put it toward our highest priorities. You know, there's a reason our hearts beat constantly, instead of just once a day or once a year. To produce energy, the cells that make up our bodies need regular refueling from our bloodstream. In fact, the greater the load on our muscles, the more nourishment they need, and the faster our heart beats to supply the oxygen, glucose, and other nutrients they require. There's a key principle at work here. You can't live on last month's meals, just like you can't draw strength from last year's purposes. You need to create a consistent rhythm of renewal, like the beating of your heart, to keep your brain and body fully charged.
The science is always changing, but the real issue here is to have a mindset of continual renewal. That's what helps you maintain your energy level throughout the day. It allows you to be vital and healthy and well, and really to avoid disease. Are you building into your life patterns, and are you making choices that really infuse your life with energy? Or are you really just on kind of autopilot, just doing things without really thinking and really wondering, why do I feel so tired all the time? It's really what makes the difference between wellness and disease. And really vitality and feeling like you just don't have enough to give, whether it's to your job or to your family or to your friends. The easiest way to make change in your life is to take some small steps. It's really hard to bite it all off at once, but if you take small steps, one at a time, they really start to build on one another. And that's what allows you to have new habits. And with new habits, that allows you to have that sense of renewal, higher energy and vitality, and it really starts to have a positive effect on your life.
There are 5 drivers of physical and mental capacity. They are move, eat, sleep, relax, and connect. And because these drivers are interconnected, what you do in one area affects what happens in all the others. When you work on all 5 drivers in a consistent way, you create a powerful energy generator for your body and brain.
As you heard, there are 5 key energy drivers, and they all work with each other, and they're all important. There are such amazing statistics around each driver. For instance, did you know that if you exercise regularly, which is great, right? But sit at your computer for 8 to 10 hours per day, you are canceling out the benefits of the exercise. So what can we do to make sure we move during the day? Keeping that good oxygen flowing to our brain. What about eat? Did you know that there are strategic ways of eating that keep your glucose levels even throughout the day so you can avoid the highs and lows of energy that plague some of us? Sometimes people think with Choice 5 that we're going to talk about losing weight and exercising. We are to an extent, but really it's about how to reach optimal brain health. Here's an example from my own life. My mom has Alzheimer's, and she did all the things you're supposed to do to avoid it. She read, she did crossword puzzles, exercise, eat right, the routine. My mom did it all, and my family grew up on a very strict low-fat diet. When I talked with Dr. Amen, one of our great partners in developing the 5 choices, he told me that fat is essential to good brain health, that the solid weight of the brain is 60% fat, and nutrients are carried to the brain by fat. Without fat, we put ourselves at risk for something like Alzheimer's. My sisters and I have changed our ways. Instead of pretzels, I eat nuts. I now eat an avocado joyfully instead of thinking it has too much fat. So you can see it's not about losing weight. It's about eating right to feed your brain what it needs to be able to think. And in this day and age, personally and professionally, we need to think in a quality way in order to be productive. What about sleep? If you get less than 4 hours of sleep for a few nights in a row, you will test out drunk. Can you increase the amount or quality of sleep you're getting? And what about the energy driver relax? The hormone cortisol, which is released when we are stressed, is dangerous to our brains and bodies when it is kept at consistently high levels. Do you do breathing exercises, play a sport, meditate? The science around meditation is quite outstanding for brain health. Connect. Without social connections with other humans, our cognitive abilities may be diminished. The key in fueling your fire is not to try to change everything at once. Instead, pick one thing. Make it a big rock. Schedule it into your week, and you will be on your way to great brain health and sustainable energy. So there you have it. 5 fundamental choices that, if made, can equip you, your team, and your organization with the mindsets and tool sets required to make the most of the world we are living in today. With so much at our fingertips, we just have to learn how to harness the important. Here's the great news. As a certified 5 Choices facilitator, you are able to offer the 5 choices in a number of ways. Should it be the 2-day work session, which has a high level of skill development and discussion to help teams speak the same language and transform into a Q2 culture? Is it a 1-day essentials so people have a good knowledge base and map to implement the 5 choices in their life? Do you have a distributed workforce where you would be better served by our webinars or even a blended approach? You get to decide. And by going through this certification program, you are able to facilitate in whatever method or methods work best for you. Good luck on your journey to extraordinary productivity. I'll leave you with the closing video from the 5 choices. It illustrates powerfully that both our productivity and the quality of our work and life really depend on one thing: our choices.
Hello, and thanks for joining us. My name is Lena Rinne. I'm a productivity consultant with Franklin Covey. Today we're joined by Corey Kogan.
Hi.
Who's our global productivity practice leader. We're going to talk through some of the key insights and core concepts that are found in the 5 Choices to Extraordinary Productivity Essentials. We'll also highlight some of the watch-out scenarios that you may want to be prepared for as you go in to teach your first work session. Corey, thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Corey, as our facilitators gear up to facilitate their first work session, we really want them to be able to go in with excellence. So let's begin with the foundation.
Great, let's do it.
So in the opening section, we share the results from a survey of over 350,000 people around the world. And they say that they spend 60% of their attention, energy, and time on important things, and 40% on unimportant things. So what's the learning outcome that our facilitators should be focused on for our participants to take with them?
So thanks, Lena. That's a great question. 40% of somebody's time is a lot. It's almost half. And you can imagine how frustrating that is to somebody to feel that they're doing irrelevant or unimportant things almost half of the time. And the goal is to help them see that even if they made even a 10% shift, working smarter, meaning I'm able to put more into important, not unimportant. And if you think about it, putting it into context, even just coming up with what would one thing that somebody could be doing better or something that they're not doing now at all that they could really focus on and feel accomplished about. So just increasing by a little bit can make a huge difference in somebody's life.
In the opening foundation section, we also have them partner up and talk about a time when they've achieved something extraordinary.
Yeah.
And we ask them to think about what their focus and what their energy was like and how it made them feel. So can you tell us what the importance of that exercise is?
Yeah. This is one of my favorite exercises, and hopefully it'll be one of yours as well, because the room lights up when people stop and think about, well, what have I done that's high value? Because, we get so buried under stuff that we forget. No, I really know how to do things. And so identifying something like that, what have you done that's really extraordinary, and thinking about it and talking about it, and then thinking, well, if I felt that way, maybe twice a week or 3 times a week, wouldn't that be something? So it really sets up the group to be motivated and ready to dig into choice 1 and learn how to be able to do that.
So Corey, we've got about 45 minutes for this opening foundation section. Do you have any other advice or watch-outs on how we can really start off with a powerful opening?
Yeah. So most important, start on time. I know sometimes we wait, people come in, just start right on time and immediately get the images up around being buried alive and get people feeling that sense of, boy, that's me. I also suggest being very succinct with the paradox and the 3 key problems in the 21st century. You want to really make the point here because they got to go, oh, I get it. These are the problems we need to solve here. So don't overdo that, but don't underdo that either. And like I said before, don't forget the exercise on extraordinary. Just having people feel encouraged and engaged and know what accomplishment feels like, really important in that very fast 45 minutes.
Great, thank you. So, Corey, as we begin this discussion around the time matrix, our participants will oftentimes want to go straight to how other people force them into quadrant 1 and quadrant 3, those external forces.
Yes.
So how can a facilitator manage that discussion?
You have to be very, very empathic when people are saying, oh, boy, but my boss throws me into Q3. He thinks everything's a Q1. So you really need to be empathic about that and encourage people to think about first, what's in my control? What am I doing to cause some of my own Q3s? Am I a people pleaser or an accommodator or things like that? So what are some things that I can do first? Sort of, as we say, clean our own house first before we then go on to the challenge of how do I then align with the other people in the Q2 culture, my boss, my peers, my children, etc. And we actually will equip participants, as you know, with a video and tools to be able to have this conversation, be able to work out some things, and really, take some of the edge off of the misalignment of Q1, Q3, etc. with others.
Thanks. That's really useful. So in choice one, do you have any other watch outs or advice, things that our facilitators should be aware of?
Well, I think a few things. Number one, always keep in mind that choice one is foundational. Really is, you're going to spend a little more time on choice one than the other ones because it really sets the stage for all of the other choices. As we just said, keep the lightning round moving. But again, remember, it's a really important exercise. Also, don't forget to review the benchmarks and the aggregate scores and let them do that comparison. Make sure you've got a little bit of time, for that. Also, leave time for a good discussion around how do I say no to the unimportant, meaning pause, clarify, decide, and have those conversations with my peers, my boss, my kids, my spouse, etc. So the watch out is you're going to have a little bit of time in choice one, more than some of the other choices. Make great points, be powerful with the learning objectives, and just watch your time.
Why is the brain attack video and all of this discussion around the brain science so important to our participants' learning?
I'll tell you why. Because, in this day and age, many of the people in the workforce are paid to think, as opposed to many years ago when it was more about manual labor and our hands and tools. And so we know that really the work today is behavioral, and how do we rewire and retrain our brains in order to achieve extraordinary productivity? So in doing this, we have partnered with a number of neuroscientists and doctors from around the world to help us understand what those tools are that we need today to really achieve extraordinary productivity. So it's a really important part of this where we, learn some of the basics of how the brain works and help people really understand how they can best use their brains to, really get things done.
So, Corey, what are your tips around facilitating that lightning round time matrix flip chart exercise?
Okay, good question. That's a really important exercise in the whole session because people learn from the inside out. So they're going to be doing all the work around the time matrix. So make sure you give them very clear instructions on getting up there, what they need to write, how they move through the room. And then watch the flip charts really closely when they that they've got the right information up there. 2 on one side, 1 on the other side. And when you see that occurring, the information coming out, have them move very efficiently. Also, at the end, don't let mini breaks happen as you're trying to get them back to their seats. Don't let a break occur because you really want to get right into the debrief and really make the most of the learning right after that exercise. So it's a great way to do the lightning round.
Great, thank you. Choice 2 is really about defining what's important through our roles. So why doesn't choice 2 come first?
I'll tell you why it doesn't come first. Because people need to understand how to discern first. Because if I can get my arms around some Q3s, Q4s that I can do something about, and I go, you know what? I have some mental capacity. I've got some breathing space where I can think about going for extraordinary. That's a really good thing. If we just started off by saying, hey, what does extraordinary look like in your role? It's like, what? I don't have time. I don't have time for that. This way, choice 1 foundationally allows people to think about how I can move my attention and energy. I've got some space. And then now we can say, oh, and I can look and see, I can see some potential in me that I can really write about.
In the 5 Choices Essentials, we spend time doing our work or professional Q2 role statement. But in the book, there's also a place for the personal Q2 role statement. So why is that?
Why is it that there's a place for the personal statement?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a great question. We have different formats of the 5 choices. And so when we do the 2-day work session, participants will do both. They'll do a work role statement and they'll do a personal role statement. In Essentials, we chose 1. We have time to do 1 good one. Having said that, you can adjust that to your needs as a facilitator. So if for whatever reason you want them to do the personal one instead, go ahead and do that. Your choice. One watch out, though. If you're going to do the personal role statement, make sure that people understand they do not need to share that with a partner or in a small group or anything like that, because personal role statements a lot of times are just that, personal. So your choice, we've chosen the work role as a center line for this facilitation.
Thanks for that insight.
Yeah.
Choice 3, schedule the big rocks, really is about execution and about the discipline that we need to execute on our highest priorities. Right. So how can we get that message to resonate with our participants?
It's a great question, and facilitators really need to do a great job with this one. And it starts with Q2 planning. That transforms everything. That's the main message. And to get there, it's about 30-10, the 30-10 promise. The brain science has showed us that we need to use our prefrontal cortex to do our best work. Taking that 30 minutes allows you to go find a nice, quiet place and be very, very reflective. People do their best work when they take a little time by themselves and just think and review their roles and review their goals and really think about what are the big rocks that I should be doing? What are the time zones that I should be putting into my calendar to make sure I do it with regularity? This is really the best Q2 activity that you can do. Just be quiet for a little while, be reflective, and get the most important things done. So you really have to encourage people to take the time to do that once a week for weekly planning and then 10 minutes for daily planning at the end of each day.
Choice 4 is really robust. So what key learning outcomes should our facilitators be focused on?
Great question. There's a few of them. Number one, the beginning of Choice 4 is the Tool or Tyrant video. So it's a great video where people look at that and go, am I addicted like that? And so having a very quick discussion after the video to get people in touch with, am I addicted to technology? Am I not able to put it down? And even a couple of quick, so what can I do about it? So that's number one. Number two, facilitators should be really good at facilitating the Q2 process map for participants because it is the workflow, it integrates with our information systems and the technology and really is a good visual of how do I get the right things done, not try to get everything done. A key piece of that is information systems. You know, where's my stuff? The core 4. Where do I keep my appointments and my tasks and my contacts and my notes? And then how do I deal with that with paper and technology? Last, the master moves. Really important to make sure we're facilitating the master moves from a principal point of view first before we move into the technology teach. What I mean by that is just even the mental gymnastics of rules. Am I able to automate some of the decision making that's coming in? Am I able to turn things into what they are, into the core 4, a task, an appointment, a contact, or a note? Am I linking to locate the core 4 one to the other? I've got emails that need to be attached to the task that I'm working on. If you can get that across principally, it makes the tech teach, where we integrate that, a much cleaner and much easier to understand part of Choice 4.
So the next question then is, in Choice 4, facilitators are only demonstrating rather than having participants follow along as they teach Outlook or Lotus Notes. So how can we keep the audience engaged in the afternoon as we do this?
Yeah, and the afternoon is always tough, so you have to be careful about that. It goes back to what I said about the master moves and knowing them and facilitating them from a principal point of view first. So there's a real aha there around how to do application. Very important, make sure you practice the tech teach prior to doing it. The better you are, and I know everybody has full-time jobs in addition to doing this, but the more you practice it and becomes unconsciously competent, the more you're able to do that and interact with the audience at the same time. So it makes it more interesting, more conversational, and you're getting the job done. Also, last, before you start, make sure everybody pulls out the technical guide so that they can see that as you're moving through it, they don't need to learn every little thing that you're doing right there, that after the session, they can take their tech guide, go into an office, and quietly implement all of the things that they learned using the step-by-step screenshots and instructions in the technical guide.
Okay, thanks. That's really useful.
Yeah.
Choice 5 is really so very important, and we have 45 minutes to cover it. So how can we really maximize that time for our participants?
Again, it's always about facilitators being prepared. Make sure you're so clear on the learning outcomes here, that there are 5 energy drivers and they are drivers for great brain health. Remember, we're in partnership with these neuroscientists and doctors who have helped direct us to these things so that if people do something around these drivers, it gives them sustainable brain health, which leads to great physical and mental health. And remember, it's not so much about diet and exercise, it's about brain health. And so keep it succinct, and between the videos and the Did You Know slides, your participants should be sort of shocked at the current research around what happens if they're not moving or they're not eating right when it comes to brain health. And, keep them focused on working on their Fuel the Fire plan and picking one thing that would really help them. So you can be concise, succinct, really make an impact in 45 minutes with a final Fuel the Fire plan and inventory.
Mm-hmm. So, Corey, as our final question, how important is it for our facilitators to spend time reviewing the quick start at the end of the day?
It's a very, very important part of this, and I know you're going to feel rushed at the end to get things done. There is so much research around the transfer of learning occurring when you fulfill a process like this, around acting on commitments, having an accountability partner who is helping to coach you. So please make sure you cover it with them. And I got to tell you, as people do this and they start to get some wins under their belt, they're going to start to gain momentum and really feel like I can do this and build some great habits and have this great upward spiral to extraordinary productivity.
Yeah, it's really where the learning takes place.
It's really where
it?
the learning takes place.
Absolutely. Corey, thanks again for being with us.
Gosh, my pleasure.
We really appreciate all of your experience and content knowledge. And thanks to all of you, our facilitators, for joining us. We wish you all the best as you facilitate the 5 choices to extraordinary productivity essentials.